We're here, dude.
Good to
Hey,
see you.
dude, how are you?
I am super stoked. I am stoked to be here. And honestly, I feel not selfish, but I feel grateful that I actually get one-on-one time because when we go to events and stuff, it's hard.
Oh,
You're
dude.
hard to nail down, dude.
Oh, I know. Well, I'm seriously looking forward to tonight as well. And to everybody that's joining us right now, welcome to a special edition of Triple B tonight. Ryan Wing will be in the house a little bit later. But right now, we are joined by Dane Thompson. If you don't know Dane, then you must be living under a rock. Dane, I'm gonna like just spout the coolness that is you. So Dane has a seriously rad Chevelle. It's a little scratched up now, but the Maliboom will live again. It'll be fine. We're going to hear more about the Maliboom, what happened to it on Rocky Mountain Race Week, and a bunch of other stuff. You have a killer family. Your wife is rad. Super cool project. Arguably the coolest eyebrow Winnebago on the planet. And that's saying something because the reality is, dude, you and Ring Brothers have set the bar. Like those two, you guys have the coolest eyebrow Winnebagos. If you're not familiar with an eyebrow Winnebago, that's the 60s Winnebagos. They look like they have angry eyebrows over the top of them, and they're super awesome. So all of you guys that are watching at home, you definitely got to check out Dane. We're going to talk about his channel a little bit on YouTube as Otis tries to kill the neighbors who, have the nerve to walk across the street from our house. It's his street. Just ask him. And
too.
Right? Yeah. Oh yeah.
I'm waiting for it. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Every dog is the same way. So, but we're going to talk about a bunch of cool stuff tonight. Obviously some drag and drive stuff and some other things. In fact, Dane tells me that he has a surprise or two for me. So I'm excited to see that. And we'll roll from there. But, Dane and I, God, I'm trying to think when we met the first time. It's been a few years ago, dude.
So the very first time I met you, I've told you this, I think before, but I don't know, was at Adams Motorsports Park. So
yes,
there's a go-kart track in Riverside called Adams Motorsports Park. And before I settled on drag racing, I'm just a car enthusiast. I've done a bunch of different style cars and things over the years. And I like pretty much all of it for the most part. There's few and far in between. If it's got a motor and wheels, you can count me in, right?
Right.
So I had an F100 I built. It was, I did the typical, it was a 63.5 unibody, short bed, big window. So it was badass. Yeah. It was a custom cab. Like
it's the one everybody wanted. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I did a custom 4-link. I did the Crown Vic front swap because that's what you do with those. But I left the 2-valve in it because I bought an $800 Crown Vic. And I'm like, the motor's good. We'll just put it all in. So I slapped all that in there.
So why not?
Yeah, I put a 5-speed out of a Mustang, and then I really enjoyed doing like the autocross stuff with it. So that was where I found Adam. So for those of you that don't know, like I said, it's a go-kart track. So you're racing a full-size vehicle on an itty-bitty track, but it's cool because they let you go one at a time. They time you, and then it's not like following the cones and stuff. I tried some of the cone racing stuff, and you have to pay attention to the cone and know what side you're on. I'm like, man, just give me a track. Like I just want to focus on stuff. And I was out there and Chad was running, I believe it was a 56 Bel Air, I want to say.
Yeah. Yep.
And it was the only other muscle car. There's like Miatas and all this other stuff. And here's me and freaking Chad. And I didn't know who Chad was at the time. I was just out there doing my own thing by myself.
Yeah.
And, ripping that little truck. And you came over and you were super stoked on the truck. And it was funny because you're like, you should do Optima Challenge. So I was all excited. I went home and told the wife, and I'm like, I'm going to look up Optima Challenge. And I looked at the price Optima Challenge. Like, we're not doing Optima Challenge. But I love that truck to death, and that was the one that got away. I said that on Adam Dory's podcast.
Right.
And I had to get rid of that to get the safe truck because my son came along, and I don't regret anything, but everybody always talks about the one. So that was the one nice vehicle that I had for a while that I put a lot of sweat equity in. But ultimately, I have a tow vehicle and a safe vehicle now. And my son's a bit older, and we just did the deal. I've got an F-150 now, so it is what it is. But it was a neat little truck, and that was the first time I met you. But that was like a passing in the pits deal.
Yeah, dude. But I got to tell you, like Adams was so much fun for everybody that's out there that's watching that isn't from Southern California or doesn't know any of the area. Like it was super rad to go to Adams because we had actually, we held a couple of pro touring events there. Rob McGregor, who owned No Limit Engineering, put on like the SoCal Truck Challenge there and some other.
My town.
Yeah, and super rad. Yeah, he's from Norco. Super rad, like really cool facility. The family there, awesome. They have like, this isn't a little kids in a warehouse go-kart kind of racetrack. You could go and rent legit go-karts there.
They're
and
fast. Yeah.
Real deal. And a lot of big name kart guys went there and tested. And they ran series there. You could go and rent a kart to race in series. You could bring your own, like they had all kinds of stuff. And so then on Tuesday nights, it was time attack night, which is what Dane's talking about. And then Thursday nights was drift night.
Amateur drifting.
Yeah. And dude,
rent a car and go there and just tear it up, dude. Dude,
it was a riot. Like it was super fun. That place was great. We always had a good time. The cool thing about the time attack deal is that you got like 3 sessions, if I remember right. And you'd get like 3 or 4 laps a session. And yeah, they would just send you out of the pits and they'd send one car out. And by the time you did the U-turn and went back around the first corner, they'd send the next one. And so it felt like you were close enough to catch the guy in front of you, but you couldn't unless they sucked or you were amazing or, whatever. But dude, it was a riot, but it was tight, dude. And do you remember at the very end of the backstretch, the huge bank corner that went around? Dude, it was nuts.
I have a video that every time it comes up on my feed, I always just play it. And people probably have no idea what it is, but it's me ripping the brown truck. And on the back straight to slow you down so you didn't get too much speed because it went into a hairpin. They put tires. So you would go and you're going full speed. I think my truck would do almost 80-ish, probably 60-ish. But you have to jerk the wheel and go between these tires. And it was funny because I would kind of bounce the tires and open them up a little bit because my truck
exactly.
And then everybody'd love it because then you could get through it easier. But no, man, I had a blast at that track. Yeah.
Oh, dude. Yeah, it was.
They still run over there.
Oh, yeah. It's a great place. It's right there in Riverside. It's super cool. In fact, Riverside is a cool town in SoCal that doesn't get quite the recognition that it deserves. To be honest with you, Riverside is one of the cities that started Southern California. Very famous for the orange groves and all that there. And Riverside, like if you go to the Mission Inn and all that down there, the hotel is insane. It's like super historic downtown, and Adams is literally just on the north side of town from there. And it's rad. So yeah, if you get the chance and you guys are in SoCal and looking for some place to go have a good time, it is not some fancy joint at all. It is not even a little bit, but it's cool. It's way cool.
Historic downtown Riverside is actually really neat because there is
it is.
But I have a buddy named Brett Turnage, and he actually did a bunch of historical documentation on Riverside Raceway. And he knows a lot of the old timers, a lot of the great racers. I've been fortunate enough to meet some of those guys because of my buddy Brett and him in his research. But yeah, he's in with all the Shelby guys and Ford and all those guys. So it goes back, and he has a bunch of stuff. He was doing like a documentary. He's put one together. It's really neat. There's like stuff I had no idea, and I live right there, but that track's been gone for a long time.
Yeah, absolutely. We need to get him on the podcast one time. You and him would be killer, dude. That'd be rad.
Brett's cool. Yeah. He's cool as hell. And it's he has a patent. It's called a Manhattan, and it's a modular cooler system. So it's radiators and intercoolers. Yeah. But it's one-piece carbon tanks on a modular setup. So he's the only one that can produce those. Yeah. And we were talking about it, and because I wadded my car up, I may actually debut an air-to-air on my car of his design.
Oh, that's cool.
It's way above my pay grade. Don't get me wrong. It'll be the fanciest on my car. But he was like, "Yeah, you need one? Let's do it, man." I was like, "Hey, bro, if you want to do it, let's go." But he'd be fun. He's a wealth of knowledge.
That's awesome. Yeah. Hey, one of our guys, Lycan, is saying, I think I rode in a 2-person cart there in like 1998 with that lineup. Yes, Adams has been around since the 70s, I think. Yeah. And just so you know, Dane, Lycan is blind. So when he says, I'm not sure, it's because he was riding shotgun in can you imagine being a blind guy and riding shotgun in a go-kart? No way. Oh, my God.
I can imagine what it's like being a blind guy riding in a turbo Winnebago, because when my wife drives, I close my eyes. So I can tell you, I ride like this because I'm like, I don't want to open them. I don't want to see her running over. She's an animal, dude.
That's awesome. Okay, so speaking of, I'm gonna pull up a photo of the Winnebago here in a second. But tell me what tell me about the Winnebago. Give everybody a little rundown on what it is while I pull up a photo.
Okay, so I started drag racing a while back. I know this seems like we're going way back, but we'd go to LS Fest West, which is in Vegas, and it's all black concrete or black asphalt, and it's hot as balls out there. The first year we went, we didn't have anything to stay in or get out of the shed, and it was miserable. The next year we rented an RV. So my wife and I came home, and she was like, that was way better. If we're going to go racing, it'd be rad to have an RV. So I started kind of looking at RVs, right? Well, of course, YouTube and me being on YouTube, I found the Ring Brothers right away. I love the style of that little, they have the 18-foot one or 17-foot one.
Yeah.
And there's another channel, a buddy of mine, Matt Happel, runs Sloppy Mechanics, which is a larger YouTube channel.
Oh,
and
yeah.
He had some degenerate buddies called Fuel Injection Sucks. And they did a single turbo on a Chieftain, which is like the big dog, the 27-foot one. And
yeah,
they were making passes and pulls like in traffic. And the things, you know, it's just shitting and getting, but it's not moving very fast because it's so big. But just the whistle of the turbo, it's squatting. And I'd watch that video so many times, and I showed my wife, and I'm like, honey, we need this. I want to do this. And she kept saying, no, no, no. And we went to, it was Father's Day, and I found it was a 90s normal 20-footer in Irvine. And Irvine's kind of an upscale area. And I looked at it. I looked at the picture, and I told my wife, I said, this could be our motorhome, because it was like $1,500. You know, it's just an eyesore in an upscale neighborhood. And I'm like, this is probably some old guy's thing, and they're giving it away. It's probably pristine. And she's like, let's go get it. And I said, yeah, but I'd kind of like to do this, right? So long story short, we fed my father-in-law enough beers that he thought it was a great idea. So then he helped me convince my wife. And that's how I ended up with this one. I bought this in the high desert, basically kind of where I grew up, which was kind of funny. Like, we went down the same dirt roads and stuff. They're right around the corner from the trailer I grew up in. And I got it for $600. Awesome. And the guy was moving, and I pulled up, and the outside was kind of rough, but I was like, it's cool. Like, the bumper was pushed in. It had a little damage. It still has a little bit on there. I painted over most of it, so you can't tell, right? But I was just like, man, please don't be a meth shack inside, because that's all. And then I brought my wife too, because I'm like, I'm not buying this unless she signs off, because I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
I can't,
because you're in trouble otherwise.
Yeah. So we pull up, the guy gets out of it, and we look inside, and he was apologizing profusely for not being clean. And it damn near looks like what I have in there now. Like, I haven't changed the floors, the walls, it's all the same, the upholstery that's in there. And I looked at my wife, and I'm like, I don't even want to lowball this gentleman. So he sold it to me, and it cost me more to tow it home. Lo and behold, I will say this. If you are thinking about doing a Winnebago and you're not in California and you don't have the smog rules, that's what really hindered me, because I have to be 75 and down. But even this one, this does not have a gray water tank. So that was, I didn't know anything about the motorhome portion of it. And then if you notice on the rims on this, they're 5-on-8. So it's a 5 lug on an 8-inch circle. So they come with a split wheel. So those are actually a needle in a haystack set of 19.5 semi-truck Bud wheels they accept a radial tire. So those wheels cost me more than that motorhome, but I wanted to keep it original, because my other option was to swap it. I might axle swap it later, but it's just such an endeavor. And the thing weighs like 13,000 pounds. It's on the side of my house. I'm like, man, I'm not going to try to get some axles and roll it back here. And I weigh 145 pounds soaking wet. Like, that wheel weighs more than me. And I'm like, bro, I got buddies who are like, yeah, let's do it. I'm like, who's this we? It's just me.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And then it's been a riot. And then I had a hell of a time keeping it cool. And then this kind of goes into drag and drive, because my first drag and drive experience was, you know, I went there and I came back, had some issues. And then I had to take this with my family on vacation a month for my first drag and drive that I struggled at. My wife goes, oh, I signed us up to go camping. You got 30 days. And I'm like, honey, that thing has rotten tires. It's never been on the freeway. Where are we going? She's like, oh, it's only 80 miles away. Yeah, 80 miles uphill. It ended up being Kern River, which I knew nothing about. I'd never been there.
Right.
So needless to say.
Kern River is awesome. Yeah.
Well, it was, but it took me like almost 10 hours to drive it there when I first, everything was overheating. It was such a disaster. But this motorhome has taught me more about cooling and how important it is. and I've applied everything off of that. I can keep this bitch cool now. I got stuck in traffic from LS Fest this year on the way home. There was an accident halfway up the backside of the Baker grade, and we were in stop and go traffic. It didn't get out of second gear for the rest of the Baker grade, and we kept the transmission under 200, and the motor was ice cold. So it's like at this point, like I actually know how to keep stuff cool, but it's because of that freaking motorhome. And now I apply all that to my drag and drive car. My drag and drive car just laughs. Like it didn't care about all the heat we went through, none of that stuff. I was baking. I need air conditioning, but the car was great.
Right. I love it. I love it. Well, this thing is super rad. You know how much I love this thing. But you know, speaking of drag and drive, so we're going to talk about the Maliboom here in a couple of minutes, but tell me the story of how did you get it? When did you get it? And you know, how long ago was it that you did your first drag and drive in that thing?
So the Maliboom is the longest car I've ever owned because I'm a typical car guy, and I was hardcore about driving all of them, owning none of them because my budget is this big. So I figured if I bought one, enjoyed it, send it to the next guy, we would just do that until I got to experience everything and maybe found the one I'm like, I got to keep this one, right? But I was kind of dead set on just fixing them up, enjoying them, and getting them wherever. Well, I do cars for a living. I do customs and classics just one at a time, low key, you know, home garage, nothing fancy over here. And a gentleman called me, he heard about me through the grapevine. I don't advertise or nothing. It's just been word of mouth for years now. And he's like, I heard about you, this and that. I got this car. My kid wants to take it to school and so on, right? So I was like, okay. So I show up. He opens the garage, and there's a Maliboom. A bunch of stuff piled on top, mismatched wheels, and it was kind of sitting just in shambles. The paint was terrible, but it was all kind of there, but it had been sitting. I forget where he got it. He paid $3,200 for the car, and it was supposed to be for his kid. He didn't know what a lug wrench was. He didn't know what a Phillips head screwdriver was. He had no idea. I basically gave him the dad talk. I looked at the car, looked at all the stuff, and I said, dude, I'll tell you what, I can get this running and driving, but it's a 350 combo. It had the Edelbrock carburetor, standard issue stuff. It had poor wiring in it, ugly paint, all that. And I said, your kid's going to get in it, fire it up. He's not going to warm it up. It's going to stall out. There's going to be issues along the way that come with an old car. That's why people don't use them every day unless they're hardcore and they know about them. Because back in the day, they had auto shop. You had to know stuff. Like everybody knew something about a car because everybody experienced an old car breaking down, overheating. You know, people checked air pressure. Like nowadays, everybody gets in and goes. And I'm like, this isn't the car for you. I said, if you sell this thing, get the kid a Honda Civic 4-door. So he's not a knucklehead. He can take the girls to the beach. His gas mileage is going to be great. He's going to put $10 in, whatever, and he'll be able to drive around. I said, this thing, it's great. It's a great car, not for a kid if you don't know what you're doing. And I was honest with the guy, and I said, I'll tell you what, the best I can do, I said, I'll give you whatever you paid for it if you're looking to get rid of it. I said, but honestly, I don't think this is good for what you're trying to do. And I was just, 3 weeks later, I'm driving the car, my phone rings, and the guy said, hey, dude, you want this car? Come and get it. So I was like, hell yeah. I lined up a buyer. I took my little kid out there, and I think he was 2 at the time. And, so he loved the car because it was blue. Blue was his favorite color. His mom was doing something. I picked him up from daycare, and him and I hustled out there. Paid the guy. I had a buddy flatbed it because I didn't have like a trailer or nothing at the time. So my little kid's excited because he sees his car and it's getting flatbedded and it's going to our house. Like he's all excited because he thinks this is dad's new car. And I'm trying to tell him, no, bud, we're going to sell this. Mom doesn't know. So she was at work. So we dropped this in the driveway. She comes home, and I'd done this a million times before. You know, it's always like, oh my God, what is this? What pile of junk? And then she always want to know, is that our car or are you working on it? Right. And 9 times out of 10, it was my car. And she was always like, okay, you need to get that eyesore out of here. She comes in and goes, oh my God, please tell me that's our car. And I said, honey, I've got a guy coming. I was like, it's already sold. Don't even start. Like, you know, and that was all the money, extra money I had. Like he called me and I had like $3,000. I think I paid $3,200 is what he charged. And it's a real SS. It's a 64. It had a 350 combo. But it was a 6-cylinder 4-speed car. So it was a 3-pedal car originally. And it was simple. And I'm like, man, this is a bitchin' car to rebuild as the 6-cylinder. Like you're never going to find this car. SS. And people don't know. They think SS is the motor package. It was actually the interior package. On the 64. There was
on
no
those. Motor. Yes, exactly.
It was just interior only. There was no the high performance motor was a different option, right?
Yes. It wasn't until 1967 that SS became a performance package.
Correct.
Otherwise, it was just a trim package like an RS was, became as well with Camaros.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And I only learned all that because I was trying to flip cars. And then, you can always tell the guy flipping a car because it's the one owner, it's a numbers matching, so I was going, so I could just type that ad and make some money. So I had a friend of a friend literally coming over, and the guy dropped the car. The guy shows up. He looks at it. He's like, "What do you want?" I said, "Give me $5,000." Right? I said, "It's a real SS. It's an honest car. You can see where the rust is. Here you go."
Yeah.
And he looked over it, made some phone calls, and he goes, "It's a 57 VIN. It's not an SS." I said, "Do the math. Look it up. It's an SS." I said, "It's not a 58. That's a V8. I said, "It's a 57 VIN." Yeah. So he leaves. So I go in the house with my tail tucked to my smiling wife that's like, "Tell me he didn't buy it." And I was like, "Of all the cars, honey, like I was going to make some money on this one."
Yeah, right.
And I was like, "I'll tell you what, let me see if I can spend the day getting it running in its condition it's in, it goes around the block." I said, "We can keep it." Right. That was the deal. And I said, "I don't want to put extra effort in." How's it going, brother?
What's up?
And, so I got it fired up, threw some gas in the carburetor. I put the kid in the back. We limped around the block with one brake. It wanted to pull right. And I was hoping it would sputter or die like halfway around the block, and she'd have to walk home, and we'd make it a miserable experience. So she'd be like, "Get rid of that thing."
Right.
The damn thing made it home. So it was just like a dog, and it followed me. And at the time I had a Ford Maverick, a 70, that I was building as a race car because I watched Too Much Street Outlaws. So it had the big old balloon tires. We were going for the Turbo LS and all that. And this was a junkyard dog that I was just keeping around and kicking around. And I slowly built it up, and it got the name Maliboom because my kid was 2, and it had the badging on it, and I'd call it the Malibu, and he called it the Maliboom. So we just call it the Maliboom, and it stuck. And then the fun fact about that is the dudes from Hot Rod Garage or somebody over Motor Trend, Lucky and dude, they started building a Malibu, and they tried to name it the Maliboom. And then the bomb squad, all my fans got on there. My channel's not that big, but they're like, "Nope." Right. They like kiboshed it real quick. I was like,
that's so awesome. I love that.
Under for sure, because they're way bigger. Not that many people knew about who I was, but it was cool that they didn't go, "We don't care." And they named their project something else, but it was neat that they didn't really, jump on it and steal that. But yeah, so that was it. And then I slowly built it. I ended up getting rid of the race car. We were going to move to Florida, and that fell through, but I got rid of my trailer, tools, my race car, all my stuff. And then I had another guy lined up. The thing was LS swapped. I'd already taken it to LS Fest. You could drive it to Vegas. And I told the guy, I said, "Give me 10 grand. It's a real SS. It's LS swapped. You can go to Vegas." It still had the bench seats, no cage, no nothing. And the guy hummed and hawed. And finally I went in the house and I said, "You know what? We're going to keep that car. And I'm either going to give it to my kid or we're going to burn it up. Like, it's not going to exist." I said, "I'm so done with people just lowballing me on this freaking car." And then, we built it into what it is today.
Dude, I love it. I think it's great. And how much I dig hanging out and seeing all your stuff. Want to welcome Ryan back to the show this evening. He's been like doing the double header tonight. So he just finished one, and here he is on this one. So
it's still going. I had to jump off, man. I was like, I gotta go.
That's awesome. Well, the great deal. We're sitting here, we're talking about Dane's Winnebago and now the Malibu. You're one of those dudes that that I don't know, dude. Like, I always love it when, you're around whenever we're hanging out, because you're one of those guys that has like the great attitude. You've always got this, smile on your face, and, you're always excited about what's going on, and, and it just makes it cool, right? You're just one of those people that has like real positive energy and about you, and that's rad, dude. So seriously, like, that's one of the things I love about having you around, is that, that's how you are. And people that haven't seen the Maliboom yet, here you go. This side of the car still looks like this.
For the most part, yeah.
Not the other side, not so much. Is it too soon? Is it too soon? I'm sorry.
Balls don't move, dude. They don't move.
They concrete walls. Imagine that. That shit is it's solid there.
What I will say with the positive attitude stuff
Yeah.
And I've said this before, and this is how I explain it to people. You got two types of people in the world. You have the people that think the universe works against them, and you got people that think the universe works for them. And all it is a perspective deal, right?
Yep.
And I've said it, and this is probably why this damn thing happened to me. But I've always told people, I said, I don't have bad days at the track. The only bad day you're going to have is if you leave in an ambulance. I was like, if I can tow my junk home on a trailer and I can physically drive it and the pile of shit's hanging off and it doesn't fall off the trailer, I said, that's still a good day. And then we wadded the car up, and I think everybody was more bummed for me than I was bummed. And it's not like I wasn't bummed and there's a mountain of work for me to do, but I can do it. And that's what's important is I'm healthy. I'm good. Like, I can turn the wrenches. I can do what I did before. I built the car. It's not that big of a deal.
Right.
And they were expecting me to go home. And I was like, why would I go home? I'm on vacation. I'm having fun. I was like, that's not the most fun you could have, right? But I'm not going to let it rain on my parade. And then the other thing, everybody's like, man, did you dig into it? Are you looking at it? I said, no, it'll be broken when I tow it home. Like, if I take the Zeus buttons off, I'm probably not going to be able to get them back on. And I got 1,500 miles to tow it home. Like, it'll still be broken when I get there. We'll figure it out. But I'm going to hang out with the people and enjoy all the events still and just tow it around. And it ended up being serendipitous and fun that I did stick around and not pout.
Yeah.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
Well, but I have to tell you, I found a photo yesterday and I had to look it up again. Sorry, I've been paying attention, but I found a photo that is kind of a little bit of foreshadowing, okay, for the car now, okay? I don't know if you're going to remember this because it's a picture of your car, but remember when your car looked like this?
Yeah. I think they did Destruction Derby with it, honestly, before. Like, that fender was all jacked. The whole rear was it ended up being Bondo. When I played it during COVID, I ended up having to quarter it anyway. So they're all quarter patches anyway. But yeah. So that was the fun part, is the paint was chipping off. It was polyester based primer they used, and they didn't do a good job. So it looked like paint chips, like potato chip sized paint chip flakes. So no way. Like, if I get in front of people, they're probably getting hit with potato chip sized paint flakes.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that was I did an interview for Holly, and that was when the Terminator X came out, and I got it the week before, threw it on there, and I had a grudge race with my buddy F-Bum, and he ended up kicking my ass because I didn't know how to wire the boost controller. I thought it was going to be a positive signal. Instead, it was a negative signal to the boost control.
Yeah.
So I turned the boost control on, so I lost. And of course, I hyped it up, and I thought I had something for him, and I just lost in grand fashion. But it was a close race. It was fun. He's a great dude. I think he's beat me twice too. I gave up trying to race him at this point because it was like, I could bring a top fuel dragster and something dumb would happen, and he would just walk away from me and whatever turd he brought. He's like, yeah.
That's awesome. That is awesome. Well, so if you here, I will pull up a photo from the carnage that the car now has. Explain to everybody what happened, because you said you have some show and tell, some parts to show as to what happened to the car to make it have an unhappy meeting with the wall.
So I was having, before we start on the adventure, I was having transmission issues. I've been learning how to build 480Es myself. And I got one thrown together, and then for whatever reason, last minute, it wasn't pumping through the cooler circuit. So I take it out to War, that my guys over there, Jason and everybody at War Performance, they're awesome. And he's like, he snatched the transmission out of his Z and was like, throw it in. So we threw in a transmission. So I bring it, and I know it was a known good transmission, but I didn't have a bump hooked up, and it had a stock input shaft, right? So that was the first time I'd been off a brake since I had my Power Glide in the car, which was a few years ago. So the very first launch that I did, the car actually pulled the wheels, but then the camber's all goofy and it twisted. So it would set the wheel down. It would set the one down, and it would kind of pull the car, and it'd set the other one down. Right? The car's going nuts. So I chopped at it a bit, and then I was pedaling. So it surprised me the very first time. So I got made fun of for chicken footing, and it was terrible. So then we made another pass, and I did a bit better. And I'd only had a handful of passes because I was in a solid third, and we were on 9 pounds. And I don't think people were believing me, but we weren't leaning on the car at all. Like, the car's ultimate goal is to run an 850, and it had enough stuff that it was capable, but I didn't have the hard parts. And I'm not a complete idiot. So I'm like, I can't come out of the hole too hard. It will break an input shaft. So we were kind of the happy medium. Like, it's enough that it's fun. And then I was like, maybe on the back end we can turn it up. But I was trying to get data to see when it stuffed second, so that way I could hit it without breaking nothing. So we went through a couple days, and then by the time I got to it was Thunder Valley, we were doing pretty decent. I think I set a personal best of 145 at a 958. So it was a personal best on the mile an hour. I went a little bit quicker in Vegas a few years previous, but that was the drag and drive trim. That was all stripped out with a power glide and everything. So that's the fastest the car's been in full street car trim, street car, so to speak. And so I was pretty stoked. And then went to Thunder Valley. I was like, this is rad. We'll get one. And then if it's good, we can start giving it some juice after second gear. And the dude behind me, he had engine troubles and he blew a head gasket. So he was being timid. So I was like, man, if I just make passes, we'll get a third place, which is like my dream, to get on the podium at Rocky Mountain Race Week.
Right.
That's the hardest race on the planet, in my opinion, with the driving and the racing, the way that it's done. And I was like, this is cool. We're doing excellent. So we went to Thunder Valley, pulled in. It was a 230-mile drive, hot as balls. And I remember I jacked my car up, and then the jack sunk in because it was on grass, right?
Yeah.
Reset it, jack it up again, and it did it again. I jacked up a third time and set it down. The jack stands were good. And then I went and took a break because I was out. It was so hot. I was like, dude, this is a lot. It was a lot that day.
Oh, so dude.
I was taking it easy. And then I missed the first call on purpose. And then the second call came around. I was like, well, I want to get one in. We'll see how the car does. And then maybe we can either leave if it's fast enough. I'll see what the guy in the other place is doing, because I wanted to go get like steak dinner. I said, well, we'll back it up later if we have to. But I was like, let's do a midday pass. It was still pretty hot. And so Jason and I rolled to lanes. And this is what kind of threw me off. And this is where the safety thing comes in. I was comfortable enough finally that I put a GoPro on my helmet, because I have a whole order of operation that I do when I'm in my car. So my car is set up for 850s. It's been capable to run much quicker than 10s for a long time, but I've waited to chop at it. I did go a little quick at a certain track. We won't really talk about that much before. I did go under the 10-second mark, but I have the Hans device. I have the chute. I didn't bring it because I knew I wouldn't mile an hour, but it has the ball. It's certed. I've got my license. I went through all the steps, and I like that part of it too, because I did all that stuff in a car that I built, and I take a lot of pride in building and doing having that kind of car. I didn't have to borrow somebody's car to get my license. I didn't have to do anything fancy. Like, that was my car that I round robin, and I was able to click those times off. So when it comes time to go fast, I was getting excited. So we're in lanes. I have my helmet. I'm going through my routine, and the guy pulls us up. So we scoot up, and he waves me straight into the water box. It turns out nobody was in front of me. So when I'm in lanes, I have my ECU that I have to make sure is running. I have everything is set. Make sure it's in third gear because it's a 480, so we're not blowing the freaking guts out of the transmission. Make sure I'm set up for the burnout and all that stuff. And then also, I wiggle and I'll tighten my belts, and then I wiggle and tighten. I can't tighten them all the way down because I can't reach the shut off. Like, I have an emergency stop, but I can't reach like shut off in the screen, the Holly and stuff in my car. So last minute is usually when I really tug them down tight. And the guy dragged us through, and I wasn't set up, and I stopped before I went under the bridge there. There's like the little bridge thing. I stopped in the shade, and I did my wiggle thing, and then I tightened them down, and then I pulled in. And if you watch the video or like the live feed, Jason's already way over there. And I just stopped, and this is my thing that I tell everybody is you get one shot at tightening your belts before you hit that water box and you make that pass. So a lot of injury and a lot of stuff comes from people, oh, this is uncomfortable, or it's whatever, or maybe they don't wiggle around enough. Maybe they just kind of give them a tug. Like, you got to pull those sons of bitches, make sure you don't move. When you move, that things happen. So I tightened everything down, got it good, wiggled all around, and I tightened the shit out of them right before I go into that water box, because I figure better to be uncomfortable for 30 seconds than a lifetime, right? And sure enough, I did the burnout, got it to the thing. I forgot to click my GoPro because my whole routine got threw off, but I went back instead of camera. And I remember thinking before I launched, well, we'll film it. I'll do another one just so the fans see or whatever. And we launched, and it was the cleanest launch I had because it was a bit soft. We left it 3 pounds of boost. The thing came on, hit the chip. We were gone, straight as an arrow. And then I heard a noise, and I swore it like laid over something. I didn't know what happened, but I kept my foot in it because I was chicken footing the few days before. So I was really cognitive. I'm like, don't lift your foot. We'll glance at the gauges. If there's something wrong, you can pull it. And everything's happening in like You know,
of course.
Yeah, it's just going by super fast. But these are the things I'm thinking. I looked down, I looked up, and there was a wall. That was it. So it kicked the back end. It never grabbed the wheel. So I went sideways at Bakersfield at the top end. I drove through oil. A Honda oiled the track down at night, and nobody caught it, and they sent me. I got to the big end, and it ripped the wheel out of my hand, and I almost hit the wall at Bakersfield. So that one I was able to correct in the car. It moved around. This one, I looked up, and I was doing the drift slide, and then I saw the wall, and there was nothing, you know, and I let off the gas, and we went for a ride. And when I hit the wall, it went up, and then I felt my body move. My Hans grabbed my helmet. That was the only thing that moved, because I didn't move at all, because I was torqued down. And then that Hans grabbed it. I was like, oh, thank God I had the Hans on.
Yeah.
And I'm like, please just come down trackside, because I started to see it go up, and I'm like, there's nothing good on the other side of this wall. I said, I don't end up upside down, hopefully not on fire, but just if you come down trackside, I was like, I'm just putting it right back into the wall, because we need to stop. That was moving pretty good. It was about half track. And sure enough, it came down, and then the wheel jerked, and I was giving myself a lot of credit for it, but it turns out the wheel's actually stuffed, so it pulled anyway. But yeah, right back to the wall, and we slid down, and I ran an 11.8 at 52 miles an hour.
Well, and I was running the live feed computer and everything at the time, and you know, one thing that we're real big on at Bang Shift is that when there's an on-track incident, if somebody crashes, you know, we'll get the action that's happening, right? But as soon as it's, you know, as it's like, oh wow, this is bad, we're always away from the scene. I don't want people at home to sit there and watch, you know, as ambulances roll and all of those things. I don't want people worrying. I don't want it's just, that's not anybody's business to watch at that point, right? The important thing is for the driver to be okay and to get themselves out of the car, or for the safety crew to get them out of the car, et cetera. And so, you know, so for us, you know, I cut to a different camera angle, couldn't see you at all as far as on the live feed. Now I could see you on my, you know, my camera that was aimed down track. So I was sitting there waiting, and dude, as soon as you opened the door and hopped out and you were out like that, I was like, boom, right back on you. Cause that way everybody knows. And you ran around the car, pulled the power switch on the right rear, and we're good to go. And the safety crew was there in just a couple of seconds. So it was good.
My wife was home at watching the live feed with my son. I've got an 8-year-old son. They're following me all week. They're my biggest fans. And previously this year, we went to LS Fest West, and they were in the stands. I wasn't up there because I think I was getting my car ready to make passes. But a gentleman got in the throttle, lost control, and he wadded up a Corvette, and he hit pretty hard front end of the wall. And she was in the stands, and a lady lost it, right? So they're like looking at her and worried. And then I came over there after the fact, and I used that as an opportunity. I said, you know what? This is a good time that we talk about this as a family, because I knew I was going on the trip. I knew they weren't going. And I told her right there, and I told my son, I said, I'll tell you guys what, I will get out of the car. I said, if I have a broken arm, broken leg, whatever it is, I said, if I can move and get out of the car, I said, Dad's getting out. For one, because I don't know if it's going to be on fire. I'm getting out no matter what. I said, two, that way you know I'm okay, because you're not there. And I said, if I don't get out of the car, we have a problem. And I said, you know, Dad's pretty dumb. He's pretty tough. We'll make it happen. So as soon as I got in the accident, the other thing that was kind of funny was I put my phone in my pocket, because they were doing digital time slips. So I'm used to the paper ones, but this was the second track where they had the digital stuff. And I didn't want to drive around looking for the booth like I did. I think it was day one. So I put my phone in my race pocket. And when I wrecked, as soon as the car came to a stop, I couldn't look. So I listened to see if anybody was coming. I didn't hear nothing. Counted like one Mississippi, and I undid all my stuff. And then I threw the door open and got out. And I went around and turned the car off like immediately, because I'm like, I don't know what's doing what. I was out, had the car off before they were halfway down the track to come get me.
Oh,
and my immediate response was, I need to call my wife, right? Because I don't know what's going on. Like, let me talk to her so she knows I'm all right. And I pull my phone out, and it's like, why is it calling 911? I have an iPhone. So I hang up on it, and I go to dial my wife, and then the damn thing rings, and they call me back, and I'm like, I'm going to have to answer this because they're going to keep bugging me. So I answered it. It was the lady. She's like, oh, it's, Oklahoma dispatch, whatever. Are you in an emergency? Are you okay? And I said, no, I just butt dialed you. I'm sorry. I got to go. Thanks. And I hung up on her because I'm like, quit calling me back. And then I called my wife from the track right there. That was my first thing, was like, get out of the car, call her. And then we got the car off the track. And then I immediately did, a post so everybody knew that I was good to go. But that was my order of operation. And, if you're racing and you're away from home and you have loved ones or people watching you, it's kind of your duty. I know you're shaken up and things happen, but if you have your wits about you and you're decent, you need to let everybody else know, because if they don't know, they're all losing it and panicking. So it's a lot. So it's kind of your responsibility. I mean, if you're out of it and things are really bad, I mean, it is what it is. But ultimately, I was good, and then I didn't know what happened. So on to what did happen. So I did confirm this, and I'm glad I did before we got on the show, right? Everybody asked what happened. Initially, the thing turned so hard, I thought maybe we broke an axle. Well, we were kind of too far out. My car don't make that kind of power, but they were older, 31 spline. I said, maybe, and no. And then Matt had noticed, Matt Frost, that the belly pan, I did have the belly pan. Like I said, everything's all NHRA legal on my car, was full of water. And I'm like, man, I don't know. And I wasn't really poking around because I'm like, the thing's broke. I don't really want to look at it right now. But everybody kept saying there's water and you can kind of smell coolant. And I was like, okay. So they thought maybe it pushed the plugs out of the heads, right? And then everybody thought maybe it pushed the head gasket. Well, none of that happened. What I have here, though, is I have my little buddy, my water pump. So this is an LS3 style water pump. It is a Gates water pump. And on the back, it has this removable piece. There's an O-ring. This is metal. This is aluminum. And the best thing I can figure is that the expansion rates are different on these. It is a press fit, but obviously this is going to expand more than this. It was a hot as hell day. We were running midday. Maybe this thing was getting pushed out like we sat in all that traffic, all that heat, who knows? But this thing basically popped out at $7,000. And when I did the 2-3 shift, it broke the tires loose. So I don't know when it was dumping water on the track, but that hit of that 2-3 shift at half track is what broke my tires loose. And I basically drove through my own water like a monster. So we were doing 105. My wheel speed went to 156 in less than like a second. And we found the right wall at the track. But that was what happened. I did pull head gaskets, for anybody wondering, and no signs of pushing gaskets or nothing like that. Like I said, we weren't banging on it. And here's the other thing too, is it's funny because now that I've wadded a car up, you can genuinely see when people have accidents versus the people that are being knuckleheads, because the guys that had an accident are like me. You get out and go, we are good. Thank God this car did exactly what it should do. I'm happy. This is great. Like, we'll get it fixed. Yeah. The guys that are knuckleheads driving above their ability or doing whatever they're doing, knew that they're pushing it. They're mopey and they're not happy because they knew that they pulled some bullshit and they put themselves. That's exactly right. Yeah. I had some dude, I'm going to make a video on that subject, the whole, because there's a common courtesy, in my opinion. Like, even when I was racing, I didn't have a bump, right? So when we were staging, I just pulled in and let the other guy light the beam and bump and do a sing and go, because I'm like, I'm not going to burn this guy up. I mean, I know it's racing, but it is what it is. But there's a certain level of respect. You have to be aware of the other guy's car as well, not just you. Like, if it's a solo run, it's on you. But when you're racing somebody, like if say this dumped and I had somebody racing competitor next to me and I went into them, this is a genuine accident. I would feel like I'd feel terrible. But if I was hot rodding and I'm all out of shape and I'm wooding it and getting back in it, and then you plow some dude, get out of here with that, dude.
Yeah, you gotta know when to let it go. I mean, something like that's a freak accident, I mean, that's,
But that whole never lift attitude, that I think that the time, for a while that was like a thing where everybody thought, okay, if it's if you have the never lift attitude, that makes you a cool guy and a tough guy and all that. I think that that's going away a little bit, because the reality is that if you crash a car, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, a dozen times in a couple of years, dude, you should take up golf or something. Like, you're doing it wrong. Okay. And because there's no way that you crash that many times and that every one of them is an accident, because you're doing something wrong. Again, it's just not right. And you have to be concerned about the other guys in the other lanes. And we've had this discussion a bunch on the show, and that's, you talk about safety stuff and guys are like, well, it doesn't matter. You can do whatever you want. What does me doing something impact you? Well, the reality is, let's say that you're wearing a t-shirt and a pair of shorts and flip-flops, like I'm always wearing, except when I'm racing a car, and that shit catches on fire and you can no longer operate the car. So you hang a left turn and run into me in the left lane. Well, you know what? You better hope the fire kills you, because otherwise I'm going to beat your fucking ass. I mean, that's just the reality, right? And good, bad, or otherwise, that's how this is going down. Because if you were wearing the proper gear, you'd be able to bring that car to a stop and get out of it and not be hurt. And, if you don't care about yourself, that's one thing. But there is somebody in the world that cares about you, So, I mean, take care of it. It's stupid. We all have kids, we all have families, we all have friends. There's no doubt that if you had been hurt in this thing, people would have been concerned, right? Yeah. I mean, that would have sucked. And the fact that you were wearing the right stuff is a huge deal. And the fact that you actually felt the Hans, right, when it tugs. And what Dane's talking about is there are tethers on your Hans device. And so the yoke goes around your neck, your belts hold it down. Then there's tethers that go up to your helmet, and they're little straps. And they will only allow the helmet to move a certain amount in either direction, side to side or forward. And that's it. When you feel them tug, I mean, I road race with one all the time. And I can tell you that I've been in cars that are under braking. The Hans is the greatest thing. I wear an X Gen, but same thing. But because, dude, it's like, oh, good. I don't have to hold my fat head up. God, you know what I mean? I
got you. I rode in it was a replica Shelby. It's actually a real one, but it's a Shelby GT350R at Willow Springs with a retired pro driver. And they let me in the car, and I was looking around. I didn't have any safety gear on, and he had like his open face, and they're just testing. This is a $250,000 car, and they test them before they ship them to the client. So they're remaking the GT350Rs out of K-Code cars, and we were there for first one. And my buddy was doing a piece on it for media, and I just brought my GoPro and he let me in. So I was basically just a bystander. So he got me a ride in this car, and I'm in this thing. That was the coolest little car. And it was funny because he's like, oh, are you all right? And I said, dude, you can't afford to wad this car up. And I know you want to go home today. I was like, I'm good. Like if you legitimately fly off the track, it was an accident. I said, you're not going to scare me because I know that you can't afford to wreck this car. So let's go. Let's have some fun. But my head in that little car around the track, like it was one lap we did. I couldn't imagine all day. Like your neck would just, be jello, dude.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and like Ryan and I have had this discussion a bunch, there's a time in your life when you're dumb and you're young and you have an excuse.
Oh yeah.
Right. But come on, at some point you got to take responsibility, and Ryan, his wife is also like you, Dane, like he married way up and she's rad. And
I'm way above my pay grade, bro. Like I'm like on mine. Easy.
Yeah. All of us car guys have done that. Yeah. We have a touch for some reason, but the thing is, I mean, Ryan knows that, man, if he does something dumb and it doesn't kill him, she will,
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Right? Yeah. I've made it known many, many a time that if I come up missing, I will be in a Dateline episode, and it will be about me. I will not be in it. It will be about me.
Well, exactly. The other thing too with the safety is like we were talking about earlier, Ryan, before you were on here, is my wife doesn't want to cheerlead forever. She wants to race. So I got her car, and we're going to be putting her car together. So my deal with her and the safety thing has always been, I won't put myself in something I wouldn't put her in. And that allows me to take the extra steps necessary, because if one day she wants to pull up and go, all right, it's my turn, I either have to let her have the keys or tell her I've been lying to her, and I'm not going to lie to her. So she's going to get the keys. Right. So that makes it simple. But then now when she's out on a limb, she wants her own car. It's like, man, like a gap on a weld, that's not good enough. There is no good enough, because when I send her down the track, that's it. All the work that I did, that's all that I have protecting, one of the people I love the most in this world. And if that thing doesn't do its job, like if I watched her bounce off a wall, I mean, I put myself in her shoes if she was at home or I was at home and she was out racing. And that was the other thing. The only thing she said, she didn't say I could never race again. And I thought maybe she was going to be like, hey, you're not doing this anymore. She said, you're not racing anymore without me being there. And I was like, done. I'm not even arguing. Like, I will sign off.
Yeah.
So next year, Rocky Mountain Race Week, if she's driving the truck or she's riding, whatever it is, if I got to rent a car, she's going to be there at all the events, all the tracks now.
And that's way more fun anyway, dude. That's way more fun.
Yeah.
In fact, speaking of, so Fun says, Dane, have you played Christy the Little Nash Rambler song yet?
Don't encourage her, Fun.
Dude. And I gotta, before we get into talking about her car, Fun put up a comment off topic. I see the flag in the background. Thank them for their service. I'm sorry for your loss. I have my grandfather's flag. Fun, that is my grandfather's flag as well. So that is, he's talking about the flag up there on the back of the refrigerator. So my grandpa Lanning. So I
wore my patriotic shirt today.
I saw that.
Yeah,
I saw that.
Patriotic.
Absolutely. Yeah. So let's talk about your wife's car.
I hope she's not listening to the live feed.
Dude, this thing is I mean, you've told me the whole story, so what's the deal?
Well, let me preface it by saying this, just so you guys all know how cool she is.
Yeah.
We've already covered that I did wad up the Maliboom. We bounced it off on the driver's side. I didn't really know how bad the car was, but the doors open and close. And I'm like, it can't be too bad. We didn't crack any glass. Like, it's wadded up, but not beyond repair, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So I had a two-day drive home, right? And my plan was to finish Rocky Mountain Race Week and then start on her Rambler, unbeknownst to her. She didn't know that my plan was to kind of get on hers, obviously continue with my stuff, but really kind of put the wood down. And I was going to try to get her out for maybe like LS Fest or something, like get her car going. And I didn't tell her that, but we were talking about the car. And I said, honey, I'd really like, what would be really cool is next year, Rocky Mountain Race Week is the big show. It's a 10-year anniversary, double header. I have my son's Pacer I've been working on. I have the motorhome. So we have stuff that I could bring because I'm going to be a part of it. But I was like, it would be cool to roll my car back up to the starting line and to let it rip and put the wheels in the air and just do it all over again and bring the car back. And I was like, tall order. We got less than a year. And she goes, and I said, maybe we'll have to bring it multicolored. And this is what she said verbatim on the phone. She said, no, if you're going to get it done, I need it painted. You need to bring the boom back 2.0. And she said, it needs to be done. She's like, I want a done car. If you're bringing it, we're bringing it. And I was like, all right. But I felt bad because that pushes her build back. So I talked to her about it, but she's cool, man. Like, that's how supportive she is. That she's willing to wait because, I had misfortune happen, but she's like, no, I want to support you and I want to see your car back and I want to see you do well. And that gives you guys an idea of how cool she is. So she's not telling me I'm going to quit racing. She's not telling me, oh, great, now you're not going to fix my stuff. When's my turn? She puts me, she's my rock, man. She supports me. So the long story short was I took her last year on Rocky Mountain Race Week as my co-pilot. Yep. She doesn't really turn wrenches or do much car stuff. So our deal was, and I told her, if you take care of me, I can take care of the car and we'll be fine, right? Like, you might have to hold a flashlight or whatever, but like nobody else knows my car anyway. So as long as you feed me and I don't get hangry or pass out or whatever, and she knows me better than anybody. So she'll know, like, if you're not doing well, you need to take a break or you need to do whatever. And that's what you need, because I'm in the mindset and I'm focused. Like, I have one goal, like a mission, like, I'm in battle. So I'm not looking out for my own self-interest because I need to get the car done. We need to do these videos. We need to do whatever it takes to finish. And so of course, day one, we puke a transmission halfway through the run. And we had to tow it back up on day one, first pass. And then she comes to me and she goes, well, now what do we do? I said, well, today you're going to learn how to change your transmission, honey. I was like, luckily my boys brought an extra. So so it's her and I, and she helped me, handed me tools, and then she put everything on the bench and she'd find stuff and we got it changed. And that's how we kind of broke her in on Rocky Mountain Race Week. So awesome. Year. And halfway through, there was a Rambler. It was a 65 Rambler. The guy still goes. That thing's badass. His is Ford powered though. And it was this little brown car, and she could see it from the pit that we had. And she's like, that thing looks like a mini Malibu. I want to go see it. Let's go see it. Like, she was egging me on. Yeah. I was like, okay. So I was doing all my changeovers, my stuff. But when we got time, we went over there and looked at it. And the kid wasn't around. He ended up being a younger kid at the time. And it was a neat little car. I'd never seen one. I'd never seen a 65 Rambler. So it basically looks like a miniature Maliboom. It looks like AMC took a bunch of parts, like a grill from Dodge and taillights from something else. And then it's a hard top, and it's bitching. It's about 3 feet shorter than my car. And it's just a cool little rig. And so we finished the event, and the 2-day drive home or whatever it was, she's being quiet and looking on, her social media. And she goes, I really like that car. She starts rambling on about the Rambler and telling me about it. She wants to get one. And I'm sitting there the whole time like, honey, I've never looked at AMCs. I don't know how popular they are. I was like, chances of you finding a 65 hardtop, it was a 2-year car, 64 and 5, the one she liked. And I was like, we're not finding this. Like, we're never finding it. And we kind of look, and people were sending me cars, but nothing. There was nothing, right? And on the side, I kept kind of looking, because I'm like, if that's what she wants, if I ever build her a car, I want to build her what she wants. I don't want to just build something, go, here's your car, honey. Like, I want a car that she's like, that's my car. Yeah. And it takes so much effort and money that you don't want to build something you're not into. You know what I mean? Like,
of course.
And so I was looking, and then one magically popped up, and it was way too nice. I thought it was a scam. I was like, there's no way. It was, I think it was $2,000. And I wrote the guy, and then he just didn't write me back. Right. And then 2 days go by, and the thing says pending. And I was like, oh, damn it. So I showed her, because I wanted to surprise her with it for her birthday. And I wrote the guy, and I was like, man, I'm really interested or whatever. And he goes, yeah. He's like, sorry, I wrote it pending for you. I'm an EMT. And we got put on a call. So he's like, I haven't gotten back to anybody, but I was pending because he's like, I wanted to save it for you. He's like, I've got so much interest on this car. So what he did is they were selling stuff for his uncle that passed away, and they had sold a car previously, and it was just a shit show mess, like tire kickers, low ballers. And he had such a hard time just dealing with the general public that he was fielding everybody. So I wasn't the first guy to hit him up. I just had a social media presence, and he watched all my stuff and was like, this is my guy. And I just got lucky because I had some social media, and he figured I wasn't a douchebag. And I showed up. The guy was cool as hell. I gave him the money. It was a 2-owner 1965 Rambler 440 American. It has the coupons, like you talk about barn find. This is the nicest car I ever got. It has the coupons for the oil changes, and there's some torn off, and there's some signed, and then there's some left over. It had the trunk mat in there. The interior upholstery is immaculate. And I looked at the thing, and I looked at her, and I was like, can we just make like this a family cruiser? All the seats are, the thing is beautiful. And she's like, no, I want a hot rod. I want a mini boom. She's already calling like the mini boom or something. And she's like, I want the same flame schematic, but I want it inverse, and I want pink and black. So I was like, all right, honey, that's what you want. And I said, but we got to cut this up. I was like, we're putting a cage in because you're going to go fast. So I'm not going to send you down the track. So I said, I'll try to do the best job. I want to leave all the interior as much as I can. I want to bring the back bars over and down, so that way you still have the back seat. Like when you look in there, I want to tuck the cage as much as possible and leave all the OG stuff, because it's immaculate. We're obviously gonna have to do like Kirky's for safety, but man, that bench seat would be bitch. I was trying to get her to leave the bench seat, but she's like, no. So I've been, after going for a ride, like it's cool to sit in there, but when the oh shit moment happens and that wall's coming up, you're glad you got some containment. You're stuck.
Oh
down.
100%.
Like sitting on a bench seat is great when you're driving, but when you're heading toward a wall at over 100, you're like, oh man, I wish I had something around me. So but yeah,
I love it.
Beautiful. So we drug it home, and the rule that I have is, because I'm a one-man wrecking crew, is I try not to have too many non-runners, and I know that that's hard for car guys to have the concept.
That doesn't even compute for me, Dane.
Yeah. So
I'm the same way.
So I will get like the closest one to running. I just nail that one until it runs and moves. Right. Yeah. And then the next one, and I'll do that. And then I have stuff scheduled. Like if I'm getting parts for this one and there's something I can do here. And that's how I knock so much stuff out in such a small amount of time. But I have the Pacer, the drivetrain's all set up. I'm waiting on a Chevy truck. So we'll have a motor for that. And I already have the transmission. The Winnebago still runs because I haven't been trying to do burnouts and blowing anything out of it. My car did run, but unfortunately it doesn't. And then her car we're just going to leave it as a putt-putt and throw gas in it and let her enjoy it and get used to it so she can enjoy what it was before we really just go crazy with it. I was just going to cut her all up and get it done, but everything's there, and it'd take a weekend, and then we could just have a putt-putt that she could take to the grocery store and enjoy it for what it is, because it's so nice that I think I might cry a little bit when I start cutting on it, because it's like, yeah, the AMC purists would probably, they're going to scream when they see it, but we'll do a good job. We'll do a good job.
It's funny too that you say that it looks like, you know, it's a Dodge grill and a whatever taillights and all that. You know, AMC stands for any manufacturer's components. So, you know, so they use everything. You know, it doesn't matter.
That here has the circle grill, and the difference of the Rambler, the next generation newer, those are really rich too, but everything got squared up. And she just doesn't like those ones. And there's a guy down the street that's had one that I've eyeballed forever, and I know I can get that one, but she's like, nope, that's not the one I want. And I was like, honey, this may be the only one in existence that I know of. But no, sure enough, the hot rod gods were like, here you go. And I bought it for her birthday, and she's chomping at the bit. It's sitting back there, but we've got bigger fish to fry, unfortunately.
And what color is it?
It's like I want to say gold. It's like a
goldish brown color.
Tan, like a tan metallic gold.
Okay, here I'll.
Beautiful. You can see it all. It's so cool, man.
I believe it is this color.
Yep, that's her exact car.
There you go.
Yeah, except she has the wire wheels with the knockoffs. So hers are wire wheel hubcap 14. And it's funny because everybody's like, you got to keep them, but they're 14, so it's kind of like, I don't know what you do with a 14, because we need at least a 15. But that's it. Yeah, that's her car. That thing is going to make the baddest little drag and drive car. And the other kid that has one, his is all done up. It's bitching. It's a little rougher than what hers is. And then obviously, you know, I'll roll something that's all multicolored and kind of ugly. But when you have the pretty wife, I want to give her the nice car. You know, I want her to show up and be proud of it and have her thing. And I'd like her to look good. I don't care. I like the flashy paint and stuff on my stuff. But hell, if we put a whatever front end on the Maliboom, I'd go race it that way. You know,
right. Yeah, but you wouldn't care.
With her stuff, we'll make sure it's nice. But yeah, dude, it's phenomenal. I can't wait to. I heard you talking about an episode about, you know, you being a driver, and then when Daphne started racing, how you're like, oh, I don't want to give up racing, and then you're sending her down the track. Well, I've already kind of have that with her, that I know that the feeling of that is probably going to be equal to or greater than me actually going down the track. And the adrenaline is going to be even more. I tell everybody, it was funny because when I wrecked my car, Matt Frost was the first guy down on like a quad or whatever. And I turned around and it was him that pulls up, and he's looking at me like he had that Matt Frost like stare, you know how he gets like where he's listening to you, but he's looking at you.
Right.
Like, you all right? I said, yeah, I'm good. And he's like, are you all right? And I could tell he was seeing like if I had my wits about me.
Yeah, exactly.
Or whatever. And then I wasn't all shaken up and crazy. Like I talked to that dude. I did some interview at the track, and I said, I just want to talk to my wife, and then we're good. Well, I wasn't nervous after wrecking my car. You watch me the first time I send her down the track. I'm going to be quiet. Don't talk to me. Don't look at me.
Yeah.
I'm be so focused. And until that thing pulls off and turns, she could be doing a 15-second pass. I'm going to be the most nervous dude on that whole track. And then after she pulls off, dude, I'm going to be on fire. And I don't even care if it's like she just made it. The car worked. So I can see from what you were saying how much bigger it might be for me to actually watch her participate.
Oh yeah, it's like I said. I mean, I thought, God, I'm gonna hate this as much as I like tuning on stuff and making it fast and all that. I thought, God, I'm used to being the guy behind the wheel, and this is gonna suck. And it didn't. It was awesome, and it always was super cool, you know. So Ryan, would your wife is there a hot rod she wants? Or does she care about the racing? Not really, right? But is there a hot rod that she just would love to have, or a classic or something?
Well, she loves 68 Camaros, and then she had a
great taste
17 GT Mustang that she loved. She likes to shift. I mean, she's a gear jamming fool. I tell her all the time, like, if you just go get on a track, you do really good. She's like, I don't like getting in front of people. You know, it's just right. But you know, if it's just me and her, you know, I used to grab onto things in the car because she drove like a bat out of hell. But, I think she would do killer at it. But, you know, speaking along the same lines of what you're talking about, you know, next year I'm planning to have my son drive in the Young Guns.
That's cool.
Junior Street or whatever. So, and we're trying to build his truck to get it ready for that. But if for some reason his doesn't make it, I'm going to let him drive mine. You want to talk about nervous? I got to ride with him. I got to be in there with him the whole time. That's
what do you drive? What do you have?
So I've got an 84 GMC with a big block that I'm finishing up right now. And
Nice.
He's got an S10 that we're LS swapping. It's at a, like a 12-to-1 compression 5.3 and, nice turbo 350 and just going to be all motor. His truck will be faster than it needs to be to run that. But I figure let's just go ahead and get it to where, we can back into the power as he gets.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, because the easy deal with that is that, in that instance, all you do is have him short shift the thing. You know what I mean? So you just, you shift the thing and I say that the reality is you go out and make a hit or two in it and see maybe the thing goes through the 8th mile at the top of second gear. And, and so all you do is go, okay, we'll do the 1-2 shift at wide open. It'll be a riot. And then, and then lift at $4,000, in second, whatever. I mean, you got to play with it, but that's how you get the number and how he learns and he'll have a good time, and he's a smart kid,
looking forward to that because there for a long, I've always been the guy that's helped other people go fast. Like it's never like I have had cars, I've raced, I've done my fair share of racing, but I more or less go and help other people. And, I'm just there for the, hey man, what do you think we should do about the shocks? I think we should put a click here, a click there,
Right.
And then they take the advice. And just like this past weekend, me and Dave took his Mustang out and private testing. And that car, he's been chasing a 4-second pass for 5 years. And and the car's been sitting in the box for a year. He put it to the side because it got kind of burned out and pulled it out, maintenanced it, put some fresh fuel in it. And we went out and PB'd and went a 5.00 with a 9. And it went 8.023 in the quarter mile. That's moving. So, and we're still on a no prep too. So, but we were sitting back there and he goes, I can bring the power in a little bit faster. What do you think I should do with the shocks? And I was like, put two clicks on it in the back and let's just let it ride. And he goes, you think so? I was like, yeah. He goes, traction control or no traction control? I said, take the traction control off. Let's go. He goes, what if it climbs the ring gear? I was like, shift it. And he goes, okay. And so he went up there and it bicycled all the way to 300 foot. Just front tire was just barely off the ground. And it went an 8.024.3 at 152. So I'm like,
it's fast.
Dude, that was a freaking riot, man. It was a huge win. But I love doing that. Like I love going. Like I almost enjoy, like you guys are saying, I almost enjoy going, helping other people or being a part of other people achieving goals than I do my own.
Oh, yeah.
Unfortunately, I don't know enough to help other people. I'm still trying to help myself. I don't know what I'm doing.
Oh, it's a crapshoot, bro. I listen.
Yeah.
He looked at me and said, what do you think you should do with the shocks? I was like, 2 clicks. And he's like, okay.
Say with confidence, like you're holding a clipboard and he's like, got it.
Yeah. He didn't ask which direction to click them, right? You're just like, hey, whatever.
I looked at Jake. I was like, how many clicks do you think we should go and which way should we go with them? And he's like, I don't know, right? Sure, right? Works. Let's do it.
Sure. Yeah. Jim Norman's asking, Dane, you still letting kids sit in this car?
So it was really cool. I met Jim on the very first one that I did, and he has a monster truck background. And I had painted some stuff. I have some buddies in the monster truck circuit, like the Monster Jam and all that. And we hit it off, and he was awesome and kind of helped me along. And he was actually feeding me bologna sandwiches when I was rebuilding a transmission on day 3. But there's a little kid that would come up and they'd want to see stuff. And the kids like my car because of the paint on it, the flames,
right?
Because it looked like a Hot Wheel.
Of course.
He was the first one that was like, let the kid sit in it. And I was like, what?
Yeah.
He said, put the kid in the car, sit in the car. So I was like, okay. Because I'm not shy, but I didn't really, it didn't dawn on me to go, hey, you want to come sit in this, buddy, and be friendly with, the guy's kid?
Right.
Father and everybody's there. And then they look at you like, I can sit in it? And I'm like, yeah, you can. The car's off. They're not going to go anywhere. So he was the guy that showed me doing that. And now because of him, every time I see kids, I always gravitate because the father comes up with the kids. And most of the time it's the dad likes the car, but the kids love it. And I actually carry Hot Wheels now. So I started this year. I bought like 10 Hot Wheels and stuffed them in my glove box. So every kid I saw, I'm like, you like Hot Wheels? And I'd pull them out and throw them on the driver's seat and they'd pick a Hot Wheel and sit in the car and take pictures. And that's how you get them hooked, man. It's like fishing. You got to get those.
Oh, yeah.
And we got it. We got to keep the sport going. Speaking of that, I do want to tell you, you guys had some episode, you were talking about patina, and this was like not drag racing topic, whatever. You're talking about paint or like no paint. And I think I was banging away in the comments section, but nobody was paying attention to me. But I was trying to yell at you guys. And my opinion on paint is you want the car at least one color and just do the best job you can. It can be rattle can, whatever.
Right.
But when this is my argument for paint, and I'm a paint guy. It's not because I can paint and I like it. It's because when I was younger, when I saw the cars, they weren't clapped out. It was a bunch of boomer guys that took pride in their stuff, and they would polish them, clean them up, and you'd see it. And those were the ones that got burned into your eyeballs when you saw it. And that was the other thing. I've always loved flame cars, and I was into custom stuff. Like I never had the intention to flame a muscle car because I thought that was kind of weird. Yeah. Well, I never got my custom that I wanted. I wanted a 50 shoebox Ford with flames all the way over it. I said, well, I don't have that. I got this car, so we're doing it anyway. But the amount of kids and people that look at the car, and then when you interact with them, you're nice to them, like that sticks with them. And I think
I agree.
Sport that people don't do. And I get going fast, I get the budget, but if you could just step it up to where it looks a little more decent and give it a little bit of flash, like gassers. Who doesn't love a painted gasser? Those are not the fastest thing at the track, by the way, but they're awesome. They just look fantastic. Yeah, some wheelie, some sound, some burnout, and a bad paint job. Like, I'm sold, dude. I'm this close. Like, I would so do a gasser if I didn't have this car. Like, just to have one that looked cool. I wouldn't even be competitive. It would just be rad to have. But yeah, so paint your cars and make them decent, and put the kids in the car like you said.
I'm glad that you brought up the gassers too. Since you did, we'll talk about this a little bit. So there have been a bunch of discussion and some new rules for Rocky Mountain Race Week revolving around gassers, because there were some cars that joined in the gasser class that just didn't quite fit the look that Matt was, wanted that real traditional nose high, cool gasser look. Right. And so, there was some argument this way and that way and whatever, but Matt has made some rule changes. Well, Matt called me this morning, and Matt and I always talk at the crack of dawn. And so we're talking, and I said, I was waiting to see if anybody else bitched anymore about the rules. And he says, why? And I said, because I was going to tell him how nice you were. And he goes, why am I nice? And I said, because I was going to tell him the 2 rules I would have had. If it were me, I'd add 2 more just to, go twist the knife. And he goes, what would you do? I said, required to do a burnout across the starting line. Okay. If you're in a gasser and it doesn't do a burnout across the starting line, that run does not count. And you must do at least 1 dry hop. I was like, if you're going to make it all gasser, then I want burnouts across the starting line. I want those bitches backing them up. I want a dry hop, and then you can stage the car. How cool would that be?
Well, that's what it's all about. Like when you look at the Southeast Gasser Association, or if you look at even the Car Chaos guys here, you have the Dirty South Gassers. And I know some of the Dirty South Gasser guys, and they say flat out that it is required that you do a burnout as far as you can, and you dry hop it, because it's all about the show. It's about the feel, right?
Correct.
But I will add one more thing that I feel like should absolutely be the rule. And I don't care if it's got a straight axle, if it has a little bit of the nose high, right? It has to be a little bit nose high, right? But a lot of guys used to use springs and spindles and
there's multiple ways to do it. Yeah.
So, but you cannot have a gasser class unless it's got a manual transmission in it. I'll just say that, dude. I'll just be there.
I think that a stick shift only Zen gasser would be pretty rad. I got no argument with that.
The guy in the Black Nova that did, was he on Rocky Mountain or did he do Sick Week? I can't remember. There's a guy with the Black Nova, 66 Nova. He's all over social media doing donuts at every freaking stop sign you can find. The car is awesome. It's got red tinted glass. It looks the way it should be, and it's got a manual transmission in it. And it ran 10s, but you know what? It ran the most violent 10s that anybody saw all day, and that's what a gasser is. It's violence.
Well, I've said for years, if you take any car, okay, and you pick it, don't care what the combo is, whatever, any car, and let's say it's a 10.0 car with an automatic in it, and you put a stick in it and it runs 11.0, you would, if you didn't have a time slip to look at, you'd swear that the 11.0 was quicker because you're doing more things in that amount of time, right? I mean, you think about that, and it's awesome. I mean I remember when I got my pro stock license, which was in 2001, in a Lenco car, and your brain, like, you know, Dane, you said earlier about, you know, all the things going on in your head when you felt like it laid over and all that. Yeah, because the human brain is way faster than we use it for in our daily life, right? So the thing that's funny is in that pro stocker, it's less than a second, okay, from until the 1-2 shift, okay, and less than 0.7 of a second before the 2-3 shift. And I swear to God, you're in the car going, when the hell's the shift light going to come on? I mean, like, you literally are like, you question it and you look down at the thing going, is it coming on? And it flashes at you and you grab another gear. And again, that's in 0.7 of a second. And it, in your brain, it is a million years. I mean, when I spun the car at Bonneville at 238, dude, all that shit happened like this. It takes 10 minutes to tell the story because every little thing that was actually happening. So it's way cooler with a stick car. Yes.
It's burned into your brain.
Yes, exactly.
You know, the best part about bench racing, like we're doing, is making rules for other people's classes. I love that. Like, let's just give them all the rules. Everyone's building the cars. Like, how about
yes.
This is what we want to see from you guys.
Yeah,
you know,
even McKay says, save the stick shift, man. See, to me, when I did stick shift racing for a while. I had an 03 Cobra that I did stick shift stuff with, and I absolutely loved it. We grew a pretty good class locally here. We had about 20 cars that would show up to a true street shootout and stuff, and it was great. And everybody will tell you that no matter how fast the cars were, they loved watching the stick shift class because you had guys that had, like, I raced a guy that had 1,100 horsepower in his Mustang. Mine made 550. He should have beat me all day long, but I got in his head in the staging lanes. We got up there. I let off the clutch, and he did too. I left before him, but he got so nervous that I got out in front of him. As soon as he let off the clutch, he pulled his hand backwards and pulled the car out of gear.
Oh, geez.
So he had to shove it into second and try to run me down. And I hit third, and I'm looking over like I'm waiting for him to blow by me, and he never does. We hit the traps, and then finally he goes by. And he's a good friend of mine. I got back to the car. I was like, man, what happened to you? He goes, you got in my freaking head, man. He goes, you told me you were going to leave first and let me know how your taillights look and all that BS. And he goes, and you get up there and you leave on me, and I pulled it out of gear. I was like,
dude, that's the Chad Reynolds way, dude. I am a smack talker. Let me tell you, dude, when I'm the underdog, dude, you're gonna have to earn it,
bro.
Earn it.
We were sitting in the burnout, right behind the burnout box. I rolled down the window and said, "Hey, Jeff." He goes, "What?" I was like, "Do me a favor." He goes, "What's that?" Would you tell me if my car's leaning to the right when I leave? He goes, I was like, "I'm just asking, man. If you don't want to do it, I'll have somebody else do it."
That's good. That's good.
I love it. So, but speaking of transmissions, I want to ask you a question, Dane. So you were talking about the fact that you're running a 4L80 in the Maliboom, and about drive. So you're put it in drive, let the Holley ECU control all of your shifts, correct?
So you want to put it in third gear, but so it's
that's what I mean. Yeah, in drive, not overdrive. Yeah.
Well, the first time I ever launched one, the one that I ate, I mean, I didn't break it because of that, but I left in drive because I didn't know. I never launched one. But yeah, you're supposed to put it in third gear. I've got a Jake's D3. Jason has a Jake's D3 because it was his transmission. So I broke his transmission twice. So mine's actually okay. At least that part's still good. But you just put it in there, let Holley take the wheel. And then the only thing that was a little weird was because of the flex. So I didn't have through bars on the car. So that's another thing that probably makes my car a little more salvageable. When it did, it didn't push on the cage at all. It just crumpled the stuff in the front because my cage stops before the firewall. So that kind of helped me out. But when the problem I was having is stuff was twisting up and it was letting off the throttle for me because I had some slack in the cable. And then when it lets off, the Holley goes, "Oh, you're not wide open. We can shift you." So majority of the runs, like I said, I was getting better at it, but I couldn't pour power to it, but I was still working bugs out of it. Like I did that 145 run, and it shifted at $6,000 on the 2.3 instead of at 7. So
Yeah.
I was like, man, this car is going to be low 9s before the week is up on the same tune-up. Like, this is golden.
Yeah.
But
what you need to do just to combat that is to make it so your wide open shifts don't have to be at 100%. You can just set it in there to be 85 or 90 or whatever. I
didn't want to get into mess with too much transmission tune stuff because we had so many drives and so much stuff. I'm like, my luck, I'm going to change some stuff and it's just going to be miserable. So I was like, we'll just combat it as much we can. I fudged the TPS a little bit, and then I took the slack out of the cable, and that seemed to work. But it is what it is. But yeah, the 4L80.
I have multiple 4L80 tunes for the car. Like, I have a autocross tune for the 4L80 that's rad. Like, you put the car in second gear, and so you put it in second, leave the starting line of the autocross in second gear, and then you adjust it depending on what the track is. But like when we did Optima Ultimate Street Car in Vegas, I had it set so that the thing would shift do the 1-2 shift at 4,500 RPM, which was right before you went into the first left-hander. And then it would shift into second. It would lock up the converter, and it would keep the converter locked until and it would not unlock the converter or downshift to first gear unless you were down to 2 miles an hour. And so when you did that, then it was the same as being a stick car at that point, because the converter's locked and it's in and you're set. And dude, it was just perfect on the autocross.
So I was fortunate enough to upgrade to a Dominator from a Terminator X.
Yeah. So that's what I've got too.
I was working bugs out of that, but I'm going to throw a plug here to my boy, Matt Happel from Sloppy Mechanics. He has a thing, he calls it the Dial-A-Boost, and it's a plug and play deal, and it has a dial, right? So you can use it to dial the boost into your tune, but also it's just an input. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit him up. So in the car, what I'll have next time is I might have the first X amount of clicks, or maybe like the race tune or whatever, but you put it all the way to the right, and that's like your drive setting, or you put it to the left one. So that way I can have different settings, so I don't have to actually change tunes, because you can do it all in the Holly with different maps. Just have it look at different advanced tables. And I think moving forward, when I get the bugs worked out, I'm going to have something like that in there. So it's like, oh, we're driving, you just kick it to 11, and we know that that's the street tune. It'll shift, it'll lock up, do all the things. And then it's like, oh, it's racing, we'll put it here. And then that'll change where the transmission looks at, the boost level and all that and such. Yeah.
I have it. That's exactly how I run mine. I have it set up. It's still column shifted. And it is set so that in overdrive, it has a completely different, well, I shouldn't say that. In overdrive, it has a different tune as far as wide open shifts. All the part throttle stuff's the same, but the wide open shifts are at 5,500 instead of 7,500. And so, it's awesome, because you put it in overdrive in fourth gear, and then it knows, and it's a happy camper, and it's great, because in overdrive, you're driving it normally on the street or whatever. You don't need that thing to shift at 7,500 getting on the freeway.
Yeah.
Like, you just don't.
Get into the gear and then just putt along and save some fuel. The other thing that Dial-A-Boost deal would be like it's the drag and drive, but it's basically like True Street that they do at LS Fest West.
Yep.
You're in lanes, and you do 3 hits back to back. So if the track's good, you can click it up. If the track's not good, I can click it down, because there's no computers or anything in that class.
Correct.
Or like staging lanes, and say you put your tune-up in, and then the condition changes because there's an oil down or whatever, and you're sitting for an hour, and then now you're going staging lanes like, damn, I should have done this, because it either got hotter or maybe it cooled off. And you're like, well, you just reach over and go, click, click. And then if you make this not crazy, you know what I mean? Like, you can give it a little something or take a little out if you're second guessing it right before you roll in.
Yep. Agree wholeheartedly. That's the beauty of the EFI, is all the things that you can do. And, one of the interesting things, it's funny you talk about that, but so I don't know how familiar either of you are with like the lockups in like a Pro Mod style, Turbo 400 or whatever, right? So any of the Pro Mod stuff, when they were running lockup converters and stuff, now the like Fuel Tech and Holly have parameters for that, right? You can control all that. But before they didn't. And so what guys would do is, all the turbo guys that were running a lockup, they would use the nitrous tuning parameters because it's progressive, which is exactly what you were doing with locking up the converter. So you're sending a signal out. It doesn't care what it's connected to, right? And so you'd set it all up in the progressive, in the nitrous table, and that was really the converter lockup. So it was pretty cool. So there's so much more you can do with it than people realize. And some of that's overwhelming. And I am not like the king tuner of all time by any stretch. I do not call myself a tuner. I have friends that are tuners. I just muddle along with my junk, but it's really cool, the stuff you can do. And the 4L80, I love everything about it except for the fact that the transpan hangs so low in that thing. God, that sucks.
Yeah. So for me, I went from a Power Glide. So the first year I went and I took the car, I brought what I had. I had a buddy of mine, he passed away, and he was one of those guys that he always said the right thing. He was one of the first people that actually believed in me before I could even do anything. Like I would tell people I want to do this, this, and this. Well, he actually would believe me. And we've actually achieved what I would talk to him about. But one of the things I'd always talked to him about before he passed away was doing big things and doing an event like Rocky Mountain Race Week or Drag Week. I would sit at home like everybody else and watch it. And when he died, he was younger than me. And it was just one of those moments where I was like, your time, you don't know when your time's up. Mm-hmm. And I'm either going to do this now, or I'm just going to wait and say, maybe. And then it's never going to come. I'm either going to get too old. I'll never have the money. Or maybe I'll be unfortunate like him and I don't come home one day. So I talked to the wife about it and I said, I want to go do this. And she was like, all right. So I had a Power Glide, a 26-inch tire, because on the 64 Chevelle, they won't fit any tire. I had the little baby 8.5 drag radial. I had a 5.3. No, I had the 6.2. I had just got a junkyard motor that I put in it and like a standard turbo, but nothing exotic. But I had a 390 gear and a baby tire, and I had no idea what I was in for on the road. The car would cruise like 50 miles an hour. So I was miserable, to say the least. There was one drive, it took us 23 hours because of complications, just the drive. It was a 500-mile drive from Denver to Kearney or whatever it was on like the fourth day. Yeah. But after that, I brought it home and I was like, okay, I know what I'm up against. And everybody talks about the gear vendor and all the different options, and then you're weighing budget too. So what I ended up going with is I went with the 4L80E, again, going back to my motorhome, because I learned about the lockup with the motorhome, because it has the lockup in the overdrive. And everybody says that overdrive is great. Well, they work in conjunction. If you just have overdrive, you're just lugging the motor down, right? It's not locked up, and you're still, depending on your converter stall, you're churning fluid and basically just heating stuff up, right?
That's exactly right.
So with the motorhome battling heat, I realized as soon as I lock this bitch up, the heat goes away. Because I was bad heat issues, but I'm like, man, if I can get into lockup, we're good, right? So I learned that early on, and then you apply that to race car stuff. The beautiful thing is you can go a little more aggressive on your, well, depending on your combination, your setup, but a little more aggressive on your launch RPM with your converter. Like you can have a little more stall because you can lock it up and you can compensate. Granted, if you get completely screwed and stuck in traffic and you have too high of a stall, you're still going to burn your shit up. But it allows you to street something that's maybe not as streetable if you're willing to, deal with the after effect of that.
Yeah, agree wholeheartedly. And it's cool because I raced a car with Power Glide forever, and they're a great transmission and they have an absolute place and I love them. But, my Camaro that we used to race with a Glide all the time, we took it on Rocky Mountain Race Week a few years ago, and it's got 456 gears in it, and we put a 700 R4 in it so we could drive it down the road, and it was great. Yeah. And the reality is the 456 gears are the highest gears that thing has ever had in it since 1976, when it quit being a street car and became a drag car. It was 7-year-old car. It originally came with a 323 ring and pinion in it, and a turbo 350 and a small block, and that thing, again, it's always had 456s or 513s since I've had it, and it will forever. I will never put some 355 gear in it or whatever, because that's not what that car is about. Like, I love the big gear, and it's just fun to drive around town that way. And if that means I have to have an overdrive so that it can go down the freeway, then okay, that's fine. But I'll run a 30-inch tall tire on it too, which makes it happy, Yeah.
Well, speaking of drag and drive stuff, the thing that I've learned that I try to tell people now, because I moved my whole channel and everything into drag and drive. I've been to 3, and I'm to the point to where I have an opinion now and I do love the sport. Like, it's not like,
Yes.
oh, I like it. So I don't get opinionated about a lot of stuff, but I'm finally to the point with this that I want to tell people and give my 2 cents because I am that passionate about it. But my
And you
thing
should.
that I've learned is that you want to bring the fastest street car that you can bring. What I mean by street car, I mean a car that you can drive around on the street all day. It'll do all the things, traffic, hills, sit, whatever you do in your normal daily driven car. And then you just make that as quick as possible. The problem that I had when I first went was you look at some of the times and go, well, shit, my car runs that. I can keep up with those guys. I'm going to bring this car. Watch.
Right.
And then when you get out, the road's the equalizer. And then you realize the road trip is the event. The racing is this much. You're in the car for hours. So if you don't enjoy in that car and it doesn't function as a car well, you're doing it wrong. So what I started doing is I got through all those other hiccups, let's just say. And then I'm like, I want air conditioning. I want a real, like this one, I had a Bluetooth speaker. I was like, screw that thing. I don't want to reach back and dick with it every time I start my car. So I'm like, I'm getting a turn knob radio so I can hear the pit calls, and I have doors, speaker doors. And like, I think I'm going to throw a subwoofer in the car because I like gangster rap, and we got it jammed. And I laugh because I'm like, how come nobody's bumping in their freaking cars? Like, why don't you put a sub in there? Like, that's one of my next upgrade things is like, I want to roll in with the car that you would drive around because that's the whole point. The other thing is when you build a drag and drive car, you don't just build some race car that you might drive to the track here or there. You need to go drive the thing around, like plan trips in it, take it places. That's the other thing I'm going to start doing with my car is planning day trips just to drive the damn race car to random places and then take pictures and be like, look, my car went to Big Bear. Look, my car's at the ocean. Look, my car went here. But that's all good testing because you're changing up what you're actually doing with it.
Oh, 100%. And the reality is that, you know, those short trips, okay, 10, 20, 30 miles at a time, 40 miles, 50 miles at a time, those will show everything that is wrong with your car. You don't have to drive it 350 miles to see the problem. And here's the thing. I think that people sometimes miss, they miss this part when they're just so focused on, oh, my shit's not right or whatever, is if you look at the norm, the guys that are having trouble on the road, they're on a 350 mile drive, they're not having trouble at 345 miles.
It's at the beginning.
Right? Yeah, they were already having trouble at 35 miles, right? So, I mean, you know, so yes, the whole thing is hard, but dude, you need your junk to be able to run for an hour, right? Like an hour is legit, and it needs to be able to idle around town. It needs to be able to go down the freeway, even though that's not our norm. It needs to be able to sit in the heat, all those things. And, you know, one deal that I think people miss out on is like the little stuff. You know, you were talking about a converter. You know, the reality is like when I first put my 69 Camaro on the street, it was always a stock eliminator car. When we first started driving it on the street and like going to Hot August nights with it and stuff, it was full race car, except we took the loose converter out of it and put a tighter converter in it because we're like, oh, it needs a tighter converter to be able to go. Dude, it ran hotter, okay, because we put too tight a converter in it, and it had so much camshaft in it that at idle, this thing was tugging on the converter. You know what I mean? And so all it did was heat stuff up. It was actually worse. So, you know, there is a fine line. Like you need this thing to just idle and lope down the road. And I know that there were some guys on Rocky Mountain Race Week a few years ago that were in like a 50 Chevy pickup, and they were having all kinds of trouble in the hills, and they had a 4L80. And I'm like, why are you, you know, they're like, oh, it's heating up. It's doing this. I'm like, dude, you need to lock that thing up. Oh, we haven't even played with that yet. I'm like, dude, I'll send you a tune-up on Messenger. And I did. I sent him the tune-up out of Daphne's car on Messenger, and I gave it to him, and they put it in. And the guy's like, we're driving down the road on a normal city street, and this thing is locking up the converter at like 42 miles an hour. And I'm like, yeah. And, you know, at part throttle. And they're like, is that okay? I'm like, doesn't it seem okay? Like, and it was in a turbo LS combo. Like it had no camshaft in it compared to Daphne's car or anything. I'm like, dude, the 42 miles an hour is like the perfect in her car with your foot just resting on the throttle. The thing's in the greatest chop ever, just motoring on down the road through the middle of Upland like a boss. Like that's, you know what I mean? That's what you want. And And so, yeah, you got to drive them. You got to go run around town. You got to go to the grocery store. You got to do that stuff. You got to get in and out of the thing 10 times during a day, because that's when you're going to realize, man, that window net bracket that I keep stabbing myself in the head with should get moved back or forward or whatever. Like, all those things matter, you know?
That's what we talked about, like on the last one, you know, like with PJ, you know, in the Fairmont, they drove it daily for like 3 weeks before Rocky Mountain. They were only able to go to the track and test once, and testing went well, and they got faster each time, but they didn't have much time to test the car on the track. So they get to Rocky Mountain, they start fighting suspension issues. They can't get the car to go anywhere near the number they want, but they eventually worked their way into it and got faster and faster each day. But they made sure that the driving portion was perfectly great, and the car had zero problems. They killed a belt, I think, twice at the track. And that was really the only problem they had the whole week.
But if you can be on a drag and drive and get to the racetrack with little or no drama, and then you just spend all the time at the racetrack thrashing on the car, that is way better than thrashing on the side of a road somewhere. So that is 100%. The priority was right for them, even though I know they wanted to go quicker. I mean, that thing was awesome, and they had a great time, and it was super cool to watch. But they still did it right. The priority, like you said, Dane, you spend way more time on the road. Even on these short drag and drives that are not that hard, you still spend way more time on the road than at the racetrack.
Yeah.
Well, here's the other thing too about the driving portion. And like you said, your buddies, they did it 110% right. You preface the drive portion of it because you get to do cool stops. And I'm going to segue this. You get to do cool stops like we did in Dewey, Oklahoma. Check this thing out. So we watered up the boom, and I was trying to figure out a way to make a little side cash so people could donate to help me get my junk back in order, right? So I commissioned the artist from the stop in Dewey, Oklahoma. His name is John Mitchell. He did all of the Rat Pink stuff.
Yeah.
Check this out, dude.
No way. Are you getting shirts made?
So I have the world's best sticker guy. His name is David from SoCal Sticker Kings. He does all my stuff. I hit him up. We got this artwork. This guy did this thing in like a day. I shit you not. And like, I gave him zero instruction. I gave him a picture of the car, and I said, I want a monster. I didn't say the boom. I didn't say nothing. And he sent me the original sketch. And then he gave me the permission to make stickers and whatever I wanted. Yeah. And then he started actually doing something with it, instead of just hanging it up in my shop or whatever.
Yeah.
So I have stickers coming, and then everybody freaked out, and they're like, dude, that needs to be shirts. So that brings me to the drive portion. Granted, at this point, my car wasn't doing so hot. It was on the trailer already. But if you're not having struggles, you can stop at these places like Chad had this Dewey, Oklahoma place, and you're relaxed. You can go look at cool stuff, artwork, meet people like this. If you're struggling your balls off, you're so stressed, it's not fun. And I just want to get to the hotel. I just want to get to the track to get out of the misery that you're in versus enjoying the ride. And let's be honest. Yeah, there's a bunch of classes. There's only a few people that, place, and there's only one person in each class that actually wins. So enjoy the event. If you're there to win, that's fine. There are those people, and I understand that. I would love to podium. It is a bucket list thing. Like, I'm going to keep coming back till I get a damn trophy at something. But I'm going to enjoy the hell out of every event I don't. There's probably a lot more events that I'm not getting a trophy than the ones that I am. But I have this bitching thing because I had the time to go talk to a guy. Right. I wasn't working on my junk and stressed out. That speaks volumes.
Absolutely. Yeah. I love it, dude. I'll
send you guys stickers when I get it all done.
And send me contact info for your sticker guy too.
I will.
I need to get some stickers made, so might as well use your dude. Yeah. Good people is who I want to support. So yeah.
So everybody, I'll throw this out there too, since we're on live feed or whatever. Everybody that sponsors me, they do help. But some of the people on the sponsor list are people that I know are dependable, that do a good job, and they always take care of me. And sometimes that's as good as being sponsored.
Agreed.
David has been more than generous with this stuff. But also, I told him, I said, when you give me stickers, I like to talk, and I hand them to people. And when people say in the comment they're nice, he's gotten a bunch of business. I said, yeah, I'm giving your business cards away. You're giving me stickers, and people love them. But ultimately, that's his business card. And I go, hey, I got a guy. And it's like this thing. I mean, everybody's going to go, that's bitchin' art. Who did that? And who did your stickers? Like, it's a no-brainer. Yeah. And like I said, he comes through, he does good stuff. His pricing's right. I mean, it's hard to find people that actually come through these days. Let's be completely honest. It's yeah.
Well, hold on. I'm going to try and pull up your channel image. Oh, there we go. Because this thing, I love your channel image is great. Your thumbnail is awesome. The
header port,
the chicken is great. So
you want to hear the backstory on that thing?
I do. Yes.
So when I first started, I wanted to build cars on television, right? That was kind of my goal. And you need to get screen time in order to do that. You have to be good on camera. You have to be able to talk. And it's awkward to hold the camera and talk to yourself, right? So when I started a YouTube channel with the hopes of like going somewhere with YouTube, because when everybody starts, that's the goal. Now I have different goals. I think it shows in the videos that I make. But when I started, you know, I thought I was going to try to be somebody with it. And I quickly realized with editing that I hated the chop cuts. I hated when people are and because it's all chopped up, because you're saying and you don't know what you have the camera rolling, but you're not talking. You're just filming because you're an idiot, because you know what you're doing. And that was me. And I hated that. What I did is I started on Instagram, because there was a timer on my phone. I had 60 seconds to spit it out, or I'd have to start over. And it had to be a cohesive thought in 60 seconds. And I transitioned that over to YouTube. And then I thought I could take that audience over to YouTube. Well, it didn't really work. So I went to YouTube. Nobody really cared, but I got my chops kind of down from doing the Instagram short stuff. And the very first video I made, I put up this collage of all this stuff. And I thought I did the best job I could. Looking back, it wasn't that great. But at the time, that was it. That was my home run, like the best foot forward I could do. The video was less than a minute because I used it as a reel for Instagram at the time. I got my first comment and I was excited, and I opened it up and it said, "Is this guy serious? What a joke." And it was like, no. Yeah. And I was like, what? Like, it took him longer to type that and to talk shit than it did for him to watch my 60-second video. And and nobody, like, people didn't, I realized quickly that people did not care. But then I amassed a small following, but I still had everybody on Instagram. So in order to kind of get subs and stuff, I started giving stickers away. So I needed something to give away. And I was like, so I was looking at like an F-bomb. So I was trying to do something that was kind of technically rude, but do it in a way that wasn't so blatant, because I had a little kid, right? So if Dad's around, I don't want my 3-year-old to go, "Hey, Dad, what is that?" So I was being cheeky about it. So Uncle Gus is an angry cocksucker. That's what he is. He has the bald chin. He's angry and he has the sucker, but it's a cartoon version, so my kid would never know. And I did Uncle Gus because I had a gentleman that I was buddies with, a good friend of mine. He ended up passing away from cancer. And I worked with the guy for years when I was younger. And I was a pill. I don't know how that guy even tolerated me. It was an office setting. You can imagine me all like wired on coffee in an office cubicle setting as I am now, but I was there all day next to this guy. So I would just screw with him all day, because my highlight of my day was when he would wheel back in his chair and just look at me and give me the eyes like, "Shut up or I'm going to kill you." And I'm like, ha, got him. Like every day we'd do, like, I would put the things over his mouth so his optical mouse wouldn't work. And I'd put the rubber band on his chair so when he'd sit down, it would like gas out, and just childish stuff. And I would giggle like a little schoolgirl. So I used to call him Uncle Gus. I used to put inappropriate bumper stickers on the front of his truck. So he'd drive around for like a week with just stuff that's just horrendous that you shouldn't have on your vehicle. And so he ended up passing away. So when I had the sticker, I couldn't call it what it was. And I was like, you know what? He would appreciate this because I messed him so much. Yeah, that's him. So I named it after my buddy that passed away. I call it Uncle Gus. And to this day, that's what I love it. So we don't call it what it really is. And then when somebody really gets like, "Hey, I think I know what that is," I go, "Dude, it's a chick pop. I don't know what you're talking about."
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's a chicken lollipop. But yeah, I gave him his little angry eyebrows and his little chin sack. And the funny fact is I paid a guy like $500 to do a 2.0 version of Uncle Gus, like to update it. He did this awesome rendering. He had like flames on his feet and the thing, like he did phenomenal artwork. Yeah. And I showed my wife and she was like, "That's trash." And I was like, "Well, we'll see what everybody thinks." And I put it up because I was going to swap him out for like a new updated version. Because I made that version myself. I stole some image on like Google and then revamped everything and like remade it enough to where I couldn't get popped for anything. Right. It was never supposed to be permanent. And I got one that was awesome, kind of like this artwork here. and everybody hated it. The whole community like booed it. They're like, this is trash. So I have like a $500 bitchin' chicken with like flame feet that's like angry, and it'll never see the light of day. So Uncle Gus is permanent. He's sticking around. So.
I love it.
And my buddy, it's actually funny. My buddy, I'll say this on here. So my buddy John Chase from Hoonigan fame, he was the art director for all those guys, designed all their stuff. He did Famous Stars and Straps. I hit him on the way home too, along with this other art guy, because artists have their own time frame. Like you just kind of hit them up, and when you're asking for real artwork, and I said, dude, I need to, commission you. I'd like a favor. So I call my community the Bomb Squad, because on Rocky Mountain Race Week last year when we went, I actually met a gal that was part of a legit bomb squad, and she gave me a real sticker, and she's like, your car's so cool because it has the bombs on it. And she's like, the Bomb Squad. And I was like, that's a good name for my community. Like, because everybody else, like, what do you call people? Like, it was like, so I started calling them the Bomb Squad. So I haven't debuted it yet. I have it. I'm going to debut it. We won't beat you guys up here, but John Chase drew me a Bomb Squad logo. So now my whole community works. So it's the Maliboom, and then I have the Bomb Squad is the fans. And then I think I'm going to start like a Facebook page where everybody can congregate and talk about episodes, talk about stuff. And then I do a bunch of the work on the cars and things that I show people. And sometimes they have like real questions, or how did you do this? Or there's other people that are actually smarter than me. I had a rocket scientist on here follow me at some point, and I'm like, what are you doing, dude? What's wrong with your life that you got to watch this junk that I'm building? Like, he was slumming, but he was super nice. But even those guys, they can chime in because they're a wealth of knowledge. Like half the stuff, I'll do an episode and then build something, and then people point out what I screwed up, and I'm like, damn it. And then I'm ahead of what my video is. So then I got to go back and fix the thing or address it, because man, you bastards are smarter than me. And if you just knew in real time, you would have saved me doing it twice.
Right. I love it. I love it. Dude, it's awesome. I'm so glad you joined us tonight. We're almost 2 hours in, so I think we're gonna cut it here. But dude, seriously, Dane, like you need to come back on the show anytime you want. It'd be rad. We'll get you on Power Shift, the other one that we do on Thursday nights, every couple of weeks as well. I know that Charles and the guy would love to talk to you about it as well. So, but what I know you're going to work on the Maliboom. You're going to work on getting that thing back up and running and all set. But what can people expect from you otherwise? Where can they see you next? Where are you going to be?
I'm going to be right here busting my ass. So my plan is I went to the award ceremony when you guys were up there giving trophies away. Yeah. And I looked over at Jason. I said, dude, I was planning on bringing the Pacer because that's an easy give me because that car could be done. I was like, worst case, I got the motorhome. I don't care. Like, we're going to the big show. Right. And you guys were talking about the big event. I looked over at Jason. I said, you know what? If we can get the Maliboom back, how bitchin' would it be if I could put this shit back together in less than a year and roll up the starting line and let it rip? And he goes, I've been waiting for you to say that. He's like, I didn't want to push it, but thanks for showing up to the party. So the goal is to get the car back up and running. I ran the front suspension by Matt because I mentioned it to him. He said, oh, I don't know. And then we were talking about the rules of the gas, or I thought maybe they were going to start changing hot rod rules. And I'm like, oh no, don't get me. But I ended up stealing a Fox Body Mustang on Facebook Marketplace for $1,200 that has all the Team Z tubular suspension and strange single adjustable struts. Yeah. So I'm going to take all that stuff off and then straighten the frame on the Maliboom and then tube the front end out and put all Fox Body suspension on the front. And
nothing wrong with that.
All the parts are cheap. Wheel bearings, brakes, all the stuff's readily available. I got the car for less than what the suspension would cost me. It has a manual rack, all of it. So I'm waiting on the appointment at the frame rack. If we straighten that up, we'll put the Fox Body junk on the front. And then I'm going to, before I get it running and everything, I'm actually going to do the paint work. So I'll fix the quarter and everything. I'll paint some of the dents out of it. We'll leave some of the war wounds. And I've got a motor we dropped off. So we got a 6-liter that we're putting back together. My turbo ended up surviving. And then Scat, if you guys made it to the end of this video and you've been sitting around for 2 hours, go to my page, subscribe. Anything you want from Scat, you will get a smoking discount. The code is BurnDown or Dane Thompson or pretty much that. You tell the guy. The trick is you have to dial the number and you have to get a hold of the guy. The reason they do that is to keep track of you guys calling in and getting your discount. And that basically fills up my piggy bank so I can get the things that I need. So you'll get a smoking deal on your stuff. And then I can get parts supplied to fix my junk. So it's a win-win. And it's fantastic discount. It's not like 5% or nothing stupid.
Yeah.
So a tidbit for your audience, for you, Chad, any of you guys.
Hell yeah.
So big block, small block, LS, if they have it, go hit them up.
Yeah. Scat does great stuff. I've been using their stuff for years. So really good dudes over there too. So
Molly too. Molly's on board. So Scat Molly, you're gonna help me with the motor. I broke the block, by the way. So we broke the block. We folded the wheel in. We broke the upper and lower control arm. The brakes were fine. It tweaked the frame on the front. It tweaked the radiator. Everything up front just went for a ride. And I broke the bell housing on my borrow transmission. So yeah, motor trans, we've toasted all of it. Yeah, all of it in one shot. So
you tear up a crowbar.
Well, if you're gonna do it,
I mean, yeah, exactly. I mean, you're gonna do it right, right?
You know, the good thing about blowing something up or wrecking it is that 99% of the time it comes back way better than it was before. So
that's true.
Yeah, as long as we can straighten that frame out enough for me to cut it off, because I just need a straight base from the firewall back to tube out. So after that, I can handle all the rest of the stuff myself. So follow along on the BurnDown YouTube channel. You can watch an idiot build it in his driveway. And then, like I said, it'll be fun because you guys are going to pay attention and keep track. And if we can get this thing back to Rocky Mountain Race Week, or hell, even better, if we can test at LS Fest West, that's the goal for the Maliboom.
You can do it.
Yeah, it'd be awesome. All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate you guys tuning in tonight. Great show. Seriously, Dane, thank you. Ryan, I know you were thrashing tonight too, so thanks for joining in. I saw Square Body Stuff Chat is in the house as well. All of you guys that have tuned in tonight for all the fun and excitement, really do appreciate you guys tuning in here for Beards, Burnouts, and Beer. Once again, we'll be back in 2 weeks. A bunch more stuff coming. I'm on my way to No Prep Wars at Ozark Raceway on Thursday. That race is Friday and Saturday there. The following week, I will be at UMI Motorsports Park in Pennsylvania, and then Bonneville starts. This stuff is all sneaking up on me. I literally was buying plane tickets tonight, so before the show. So lots of stuff to do. Also, if you have not heard the news, Wickham just shared this with me. George Poteet passed away, it looks like today. George Poteet, amazing hot rod collector and all that, driver of the Speed Demon, a guy that went over 400 mile an hour more than anybody on the planet, and just a hell of a nice guy. I've known George for years and years and years. Been fortunate enough to spend some really good time with him on the Salt at Bonneville more times than I can count. I got to tell you, what a great dude. His family is awesome and just an amazing human being. And so our thoughts and prayers go out to his family tonight. Fun is asking, are the salt flats dry? And they are as of right now. So my understanding is the salt conditions are really good. They're already dragging and prepping, which is their norm. People don't understand that they're out there 3 to 4 weeks before the event, but they are. So, so Bonneville should be good this year for sure. But thanks again, guys, for tuning in. We appreciate it. And we'll see you guys next time.
Take you later.
Thanks, everybody.